Throughout history, humanity has faced disasters that changed the world forever. From deadly pandemics to devastating wars, these events left scars we still feel today. Here are the top 5 most destructive events in human history. Number 1, the Black Death. It began when infected fleas traveled on rats aboard merchant ships, silently carrying death from port to port. These fleas transmitted the plague to humans, sparking one of the most terrifying pandemics in history. The symptoms were horrifying: high fever, painful swellings called buboes, blackened skin from internal bleeding, and death often within just a few days. Entire villages were wiped out, families abandoned loved ones, fearing infection, towns that had bustled with life fell silent almost overnight. In total, as many as 200 million people died, nearly half of Europe's population. But it wasn't just death. Economies collapsed, food became scarce, and even faith in religion and authority began to crumble. The Black Death didn't just kill, it transformed society, reshaping Europe and laying the foundations for the modern world. Number 2, World War II. World War II was the deadliest conflict in human history, lasting from 1939 to 1945. It began when Nazi Germany invaded Poland, dragging the world into a war that would claim tens of millions of lives. This was a truly global war, fought across Europe, Africa, Asia, and the Pacific. Advanced tanks, planes, and submarines turned the battlefield into a mechanized nightmare. Civilians paid a terrible price. Entire cities were bombed into ruins, families displaced, and millions lived under occupation and fear. The Holocaust became one of history's darkest chapters, with 6 million Jews and millions of others systematically murdered by the Nazi regime. Meanwhile, in the Pacific, fierce battles were fought between Japan and the Allies. From the jungles of Southeast Asia to the beaches of Iwo Jima, the fighting was brutal. The war ended after the United States dropped atomic bombs on the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, unleashing a new kind of destruction the world had never seen before. By 1945, an estimated 70 to 85 million people were dead, about 3% of the world's population. World War II reshaped global politics, created the United Nations, and left lessons humanity can never afford to forget. Number 3, World War I. It was defined by trench warfare. Millions of soldiers lived and died in endless lines of muddy trenches, facing constant bombardments and machine gun fire. This was the first war to introduce modern weapons: tanks, chemical gas, airplanes, and long-range artillery turned the battlefield into a slaughterhouse. By the end of the war, nearly 20 million people had died and more than 20 million were wounded, leaving families and nations shattered. The war ended in 1918, but its peace treaty, the Treaty of Versailles, left deep resentment. Instead of securing peace, it set the stage for an even deadlier conflict: World War II. World War I was a warning of the destructive power of modern warfare, a warning humanity would tragically ignore just 2 decades later. Number 3, the 1918 Spanish flu. As World War I came to an end, another killer swept across the globe: the 1918 Spanish flu. Unlike any disease before it, this influenza pandemic spread with terrifying speed. It infected 1/3 of the world's population. Soldiers returning home from the war carried the virus to every corner of the earth. The symptoms were brutal: high fever, coughing, and in the worst cases, lungs filled with fluid that suffocated victims in days. Entire households were wiped out. In total, around 50 million people died, more than the entire death toll of World War I. Unlike the Black Death, this disaster struck in an age of modern science, yet humanity was powerless to stop it. Number 5, the Indian Ocean Tsunami. The quake triggered a tsunami with waves over 100 feet high. Within hours, walls of water crashed into the shores of 14 countries. Entire coastal villages were erased in minutes. People were swept away with no chance to escape. Families were separated, homes were gone in an instant. The 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami showed the unstoppable power of nature. and the importance of global cooperation in times of crisis. These 5 disasters stand as reminders of how fragile human life can be, and how quickly the world can change. From pandemics to wars and natural disasters, each event reshaped history in its own way. Which one do you think left the biggest mark on humanity? Let me know in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories from history.